Well, it's another day and another video, or at least it's been a few days. I've been very busy. Well, what's happening today? Well, a good friend of mine has started a shop called Mix iPhone Repairs, and as a result of some unforeseen circumstances, he's now operating out of his private residence. So I've decided to put him together a little care package of some components after I had a chat with him today. And it looks like I'm going to learn some surface mount techniques from him. A little interesting bit of history. Previously, once upon a time, I used to repair hearing aids for the Australian government. And it was quite an interesting job. However, I never actually had to rework any surface mount components. It was all mostly replacing just modules and cables and earphones. All very tiny fiddly work, working under a microscope. Well, now Mick has started to do some work under a microscope and started to do some finer work than even I'm capable of. And so I'm going to send together a little care package, and I'm going to make a project up today as well, and I'll explain that in a minute. One of the things I'm setting off are what I call hypodermic needle probes. These are really, really sharp probes, and they quite easily punch through paper without any trouble at all. Even if there's not too much force on the paper, they'll still punch through. So these are very, very good for tiny little components. And to give you some idea, they have room to move inside a piece of prototype board. So yeah, I've thrown together a little bit of IFC cable and some banana plugs and made him up a set of test leads that are a lot smaller than his current ones. One of the other things he needs is just a portable little continuity tester. So I'm going to make up something that is somewhat close to what he needs, and I'm going to use a couple of LEDs, a resistor and a few other little bits. I'd love to use a beeper, but I've run out of beepers. But by putting it on a prototype board, I'm going to leave provision for him to add one himself. But yeah, he's a little busy at the moment, so I thought I'd throw together a little gift project without really doing much real previous work. To be honest, I know this circuit off the top of my head. So let's get started with this. Okay, so let's just explain what I'm doing here for a minute while I just bend some legs out. I'm starting with a red and a green LED. These will signify correct and incorrect polarity. Now for those observant, you'll notice that I have them in alternating positions. This is going to be a super simple little circuit, and I'm going to need some different tools here. This super simple little circuit, if I can get all my enunciation correct there, basically is going to be polarity detection using two diodes. If I hook them both in parallel in opposite directions, one diode will light and the other will not. And provided I check my polarity correctly, it will be green for good and red for bad. And I will be attaching some appropriately coloured silicon cable, such as this stuff. I've got red and black and yellow and blue and all the colours of the rainbow. Well, probably 5 of them at least. So yeah, I'll be primarily intending this to run off about 12 volts or somewhere about that. So I'll be using like a 390 ohm resistor. Although depending on the battery supply I can find, I might run it on something a little lower. And I'm hoping to find one of these batteries in my collection that's still quite good. I think I have a box full of them somewhere. So if that's the case, I'll attach one of them to the board. So I think it's probably time I found something to mount this on and got the soldering iron. But wait, there's more. So I have this huge roll of 390 ohm resistors. And for those of you who couldn't be bothered with colour coding when you were younger, let's see if I can get a good light on this. I'll read these guys off. Whoa, that is really bright. Okay, that's a little too bright. Here we go. So we have orange, white, black, black, brown from the bottom up. So I think these are 3 for orange, 9 for white, 0 for black, and 0 multiplier for black, and brown, which I think is 2, what is it, brown, black, or no, black, brown. So that means brown is 2, no, sorry, 1. That must be 1%. I really have to look that up. Once the percentages get out of gold and silver range, which is 5 and 10%, I'm pretty lost. Anyway, we need one of these guys. let's get that in the board. Right, let's get my suction vent up here. It's time to do a little bit of soldering. So what we have here is two LEDs in situ. I should probably put a dob of, well, not really a dob, but I should solder those pads surrounding the LEDs. And it's always when you're on camera you end up with too much solder on the iron. One of the things about prototype board is there is no solder mask between these things, so they are designed so that you can bridge from pad to pad very easily, but it does show up very quickly if you've been lazy in the past with your soldering technique. So you can look a little foolish, such as when you're trying to record a YouTube video. Alright, here is the other end of my resistor, and I think that's pretty good. Okay, we can do a little bit of quick trimming here. We've got some other components to find as well. I need to go and find a piezo beeper. Decided it's probably good to put one in there, but upon looking in my parts kit, all I've got is piezo or piezo speakers. Alright, that's our resistor there. Okay, so let's see if I can go and find a beeper in my junk pile. Okay, so I went rummaging around the shed and I found my big box of 1,000 resistors as well. I needed some of those, and I found a piezo beeper, a little on the big side, but it should work. I also found something kind of special. I found some of my old work. Now this, let me find a coin for scale here. This is an Australian 50-cent coin. This is a hearing aid module that I set up as a test bed. This was one that was originally damaged beyond repair when I was doing it for a living. And I found the module was okay, but the earphone and microphone were not. So I set this up with a pneumatic microphone as a test module. And over here I'm holding onto the tube with the earpiece. Interesting fact, most hearing aids use pneumatic earphones, and they use just vinyl tubing to run up to an e-mold. And this is the top off this one. This was a canal aid. It goes right down the middle, and the battery door shuts there. This is an old zinc oxide battery that's probably long been flat. It's been, well, let me think. Let's see, it would have been about 2002. Oh no, maybe 2003, 2004, somewhere about then when I was doing this work. So it's been a while. That battery's probably well and truly flat. But I'm going to donate this to Mick's iPhone repairs to see what he can do with it. Should be interesting. Okay, I've just had a quick message from Mick, and he says he's building his own continuity beeper, and he just wants the beeper. So that will go to him as a donation, and this will just become a simple continuity checker. And it really is that simple. 2 LEDs and a resistor. So let's get some cable hooked up. Alright, I've just done a little bit of work here. I've attached 2 wires to where it needs to go, and I've done this nice little wire wrap here just to hold it on, and that pops out either side here. Alright, now we just need to put a couple of banana plugs on it. Banana plugs. I'm getting my syllables a little bit unsyllabic. Or what is it? There's my friend and ex advertising consultant, writer. He says the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Anyway, now that my brain is a little bit messed up as a result of that, I'm going to get down here with some cutters and tin some tips here and fit these connectors. So we'll be right back. Right, there's a lot of tools laying around on my workbench now, and I'm starting to drop them on the floor. And I just about put a screwdriver through my foot just then. So let's pack up some of these tools, including my Leatherman here. Get that out of the way, and let's demonstrate what's happening now. Okay, so where are we at? So we have this pretty much assembled, and we have 2 banana connectors on here, and I'm going to put some hypodermic needle size probes on here, of which I'm donating to Mick also. Alright, now we need a test source. I might have a really big battery. Hang on one moment. Okay, I have a really big battery. In fact, it's a 7 amp hour gel cell. Alright, let's employ some blue tack here. Stick that down, and we'll put black to black and red to red. Or not. Where are we? Something is not right. I wonder if this battery's okay. It's been sitting for a couple of months. Let's see here. Okay, so with black to black on the terminals and red to red, we have a green light. With now black to red and red to black, we have a big angry red light saying, no you idiot, that's backwards. So, green is good, red is for retard. Well, I don't really want to say retard because I know at least one retard and he's not actually all that retarded. He's just, I don't know what the politically correct term is. Somebody correct me in the comments. Famous last words. It is indicative of a time where I've grown up having that being in the common vernacular, not intended to be offensive, but it slips out every now and then without thinking. So I apologise for that. Moving on, anyway. This little polarity checker seems to be working just fine. In the meantime, I have thrown together a pile of other components and knickknacks and extra bits and pieces on request to go to Nick and his apprentices. And his oldest apprentice is getting quite into this stuff, so hopefully she'll have something to do as well. Anyway, that's my quickie little video on my polarity tester, or it's going to be mixed polarity tester now. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. That's just been a quickie. So we'll have something more for you soon. I think what am I doing right at this moment? I'm uploading the June donations and deliveries video, and I've got a whole bunch of other things in the works, including my 12-volt UPS part 2 video, of which I think Mick's apprentice might be assembling some for me. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, more stuff to come, and hopefully it's interesting. But wait, there's more. This is the next morning. I thought I had a little bit of inspiration. At about 2 or 3 o'clock this morning when my child woke up. So if I'm not really on script at the moment, not that I script these, bear with me, my language does suffer when I'm tired. I thought I could make this a whole lot more handy. I've got these little self-powered voltmeters that I've used in various applications before. Namely, if I go up here, this little guy up here, this is my little UPS unit. So if we come all the way back down here again, I decided that I can use one of these guys, and now I'm a bit worried about running at reverse polarity, but I had a bit of an inkling. I was going to do this from a wallet-based voltmeter. I figure if I hook up off the green LED, and then I can simply adjust the calibration here to compensate for the voltage drop across the LED. So therefore I can still get correct voltage reading, and only if the polarity is correct, which means we don't burn out this poor little chip here. You know, because violence against chips is not okay. So, alright, let's see how we can go about getting this attached. Okay, so in my half-drunken state, not that I'm a drinker, I've decided to do a quick test before I start soldering stuff. So, now let's have a look here. I've got 2 clip leads hooked up to the back of this board, where I propose to connect the voltmeter. And it should be across the green LED. So if we hook the green LED up, we're getting voltage. And it's not that far off calibration, being straight out of the bag. So now if we were to reverse the polarity here, it should disconnect that meter entirely. It does. And for the record, off camera, I did hook this up backwards, so that it was working off the red LED. And I get the same scenario. I don't think I'm getting any back current through that LED. So, yeah, I think I've got my connections right. It'll be just a simple case of attaching this now, after I do a quick bit of calibration. So let's get into soldering this. The first step I'm going to do here is I'm going to shorten these leads just a tiny bit so we get a neater finish. And trust me to get them stuck on the pliers. Well, camera angles are not good today. Let's bring this up. So where are we here? I need to, rather than use automatic strippers, I have a very sharp pair of flush cutters. And I'm just giving the cable a squeeze in 2 axes, and then I just lift it off. It takes a little bit of skill to do that with these sharp cutters and a bit of a gentle touch. And a lack of distractions from my apprentice in the background. Now, one of the other things to remember is I have multiple sclerosis. My right hand over here has some permanently limited sensation too. So the skills that I used to have, like working on hearing aids and micro stuff, some of that is incredibly more difficult nowadays. So if you see me make some like real clumsy mistakes, that is sometimes unintentional. Well, you wouldn't expect mistakes to be intentional for the most part, unless you consider my apprentice an intentional mistake. I don't know how that goes. But yeah, sometimes I'm just working with the limitations I have. Anyway, let's attach this to the board. The reason I did a couple of steps off camera is I needed 2 hands to do them. I still need 2 hands, but I have the camera sorted. Now, as I addressed earlier in the video, the lack of solder mask in here enables you to bridge from pad to pad, and that's part of the properties of prototyping board. They're not really designed around looking neat, they're designed around helping you build prototypes, as the name might imply. So here we go from here. But hopefully when I'm done with this I can get a nice neat little board happening. My apprentice at the moment is having a good day by the sound of things. I'll have to investigate that shortly. Okay, so we're up to the calibration stage now. So I need to get all this mounted properly so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now we're time to calibrate this. We'll just check here. If I do something rudimentary, we use that instead of my previous stated word for R. We use rudimentary. If I do something, I make a rudimentary mistake, connected backwards, we get a red light going, you're not smart. Okay. Here we go. Now if we go green wise here, we get voltage correct. So it's now showing 10.5 volts, which is a long shot from the 12.7. Now, let me check that I've got this correct. So I have my negative coming off the ground wire here. Excuse me, with my crispy throat. I need to drink more. And I've got the red wire coming off the green LED. And it's across the resistor there. I can't go across the other side because that would be directly coming through the 12 volt side. I need to rethink how this works. One moment. I have my trusty multimeter here, and I'm going to do a quick little bit of probing around. And we can hear one of the SO choppers flying overhead. Or it could be a military one. We're both near a gas plant and near a military base. So we do get some interesting aircraft. We'll just wait a moment while they go overhead. And while all my windows rattle. Okay, so let's see here. We should have, let's get my multimeter here. I can't really see this. That's right, this one has a backlight. I bought it just for this. So looking at 10 volts that side, looking at 12.8 volts that side, and through the green one, looking at 0 volts across that. Okay, so how do we have 0 volts across there? Am I just not making contact? Could be because the meter's across that. Yeah, I think I might need to change the circuit slightly. Either way, we'll be right back once I've corrected that. Okay, well I've spotted a slight variance in, well I've spotted what's confusing the hell out of me actually. Let's see if I can find a light over here. Alright, let's have a light. See if we can see what's going on here, and I'll find one of these little probes. Okay, so I've discovered that this tiny little thing right here is actually a bleedback diode. And that's what's screwing up the circuit. I thought that it wouldn't have any protection in it, being that it only cost a couple of dollars. Oh, and I've just shorted something out there. Actually, this is the first time I've seen this happen. My fuse blown light has popped. So my fuse did its job, actually. Alright, I'll change that fuse in a moment. In the meantime, yes, this little bleedback diode has been causing a problem with these two diodes here. So I actually can hook this up directly without having to go through the diodes, and it will protect itself in the case of reverse polarity. Makes my life a lot easier. So it just means I need to remove this red wire from here and go up around the back just off the edge of the screen here. So easy fixed. Now I've got to get around to changing a fuse. Because even with a really super simple project, things are not always simple. Let's disconnect our load. Let's have a look what happened. I think my two leads crossed when they were sitting too close together. So, now this light is lit, which means there's still a load somewhere in the circuit. And I'm pulling a 1/2 amp, which I think might be my overhead lights. Okay, so there's still a small load on here somewhere. The way this works, that LED is in parallel with the fuse. So when the fuse is connected, it should short that light out and conduct all the current through. So let's pull our fuse out. I think if we disconnect that, that should disconnect all the load. Okay, so now these are, I think these are 5AG fuses, and I happen to have a snazzy box of them. So let's hop back down here. Let's see if we can read this fuse for a moment. Oh yes, it's definitely blown. And it was a, I think it's a 5 amp. Yep, looks like a 5 amp. Let's see if we can find another 5 amp in this collection of fuses. Riveting YouTube video, isn't it? Watching me change fuses. Well, being as nobody's paying me for this, you're probably going to have to deal with the content. Now, I used to have a 10 amp in here, and it was melting leads. I think it was a 15. What's that? That is a 2 amp. A little bit low for what I do. My apprentice is having a bad day today. I think I need to find out what that was about. Well, it turns out my apprentice caused a WAGNS incident. Decided to run around like a maniac and slipped over on some debris she left in the hallway. Alright, so let's see how we go here. We need to put another 5 amp fuse back in here. Let's go and reinsert this and see if it instantly blows, and find out if it was me or something else. Look, these are very fine threads. There's a spring behind them, and Chinese made it, so the thread is not really cleanly cut. Alright, that's good. We've got power back again. Let's connect our extraction fan, if I don't drop the lead. The extraction fan back in again, and I'll connect just one wire of my test leads for the moment, because I don't need them connected just yet. And we'll pull our extraction fan back over here. Alright, let's get things sorted. So I'm now finally back at a stage where I can do some test calibration. But what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to pull these probes off. They're responsible for the short circuit that we had. Now I have some extra, what's going on here? Get my multimeter out of the way, just a little bit. And I think actually I'm going to pull the probes off it as well. Because I'm using banana connectors, I can do something intelligent. We can connect these together like so. Alright, so that means I get a nice reliable connection. Now let's hook up our power supply to these two connections. Sounds like my apprentice has bounced back to normal again. Alright, and now we'll place these over the back here with something to keep them separated this time. Okay, now let's go time. Put power on. Oh, okay. We don't have any lights. Let's see what's going on. Let's check my multimeter over the back. That's off camera here. Well, it's registering 12.4 volts, so something is now suddenly not right. I did move a lead. I haven't upset the solder. How are my connections working? So the multimeter is coming off the side of these. Maybe they're not getting connection that way. Let's check this and this. What's going on here? Let's try again. So I do have power connected to it, but nothing reading on the voltmeter. Investigation time. Well, after my whole little spiel about, abuse against chips is not okay, well, I think I've abused this chip and killed it. Let's see if I can demonstrate this. And I think I've killed a green LED as well. I think the short circuit was on the back of the board. There's that brief moment of distraction. Let's change our camera angle. This is also distractions today. This is also a good indication as to why not to do this stuff when you're tired. Yep, I'd say that meter is good and dead. Let's get another one out and see what happens. Alright, we have another one here. Let's try this. Like I said, guys, trying to do this stuff without much sleep is always a challenge. These things take months and months to get here. These took 3 months to get here. It's crazy. Okay, so something's not right here. Rather than connect direct to the board, let's just touch these probes to these wires and see if this one works. This is the new one, by the way. So, new one works. Okay, let's check our old one and just make sure. I'll repeat with the same method I did just then. I'd say it's dead. Yep. That one is dead. DED or DEAD. I don't know, whatever. Alright. Double check, because I'm just killing things today. It's nothing like making mistakes and then making them on the camera. Alright, so that one's a little out of calibration, but we can fix that. But that seems to be okay. Alright, so the short circuit was obviously not just between the probes, it was across something else. So let's just push everything off the desk out of the way that is not 100% necessary to this task. Alright, now let's attach this new meter. I've only got one left after this, so I've got a 3-month wait for more of them. I decided here I was going to redo the connections on the board as well because they looked a little flimsy. The process, I realised this is very much like the other ones I've used, where there is there's 2 pins that are going to be bridged here. There's a actual display voltage, and then there's also the sense wire, and they just attach them together and go, yay, it's self-powered, when they just actually mean they just bridge 2 leads. So, alright, let's get this on the board. Well, we've got our ground wire attached. I just had to jump past that. That was a tricky one. Now, I think what we're going to do, out of experience with my wallet line, I can just actually hook it straight up to here. I don't need to go through the diodes or anything fancy. I think the red light will indicate pretty quickly that we've got it backwards, and that should work. So let's try again. Now, here's the dangerous bit. What have we got here? We've got 2 probes that I need to remove. This is coming from the 12-volt supply. Let's just touch ground briefly. Oh, that's right, we killed the green LED. So let's hook this up backwards and just see if our red LED still functions. Our red LED doesn't function either. You would think with 3 components that this would be simple. This is what happens when you don't have sleep, guys. was just examining this circuit in closer detail, and the whole top fell off the LED. So I dare say that was subject of some direct current exposure, which was probably responsible for the short circuit. So fatigue and laziness, I don't know, and having stuff all over your desk. That's how that happens. So what I've adopted to do for the moment, this output here is a continuity beeper, and when I leave these touch, I get an audible beep. More importantly, there's not enough current through there to cause any damage, and it will light an LED and the voltmeter. So yeah, I'm going to replace that LED and then forever have my OCD haunt me that this is not symmetrically spaced anymore. I'm back to testing. Replace that LED. Let's test with our low current probes. What I should have done in the first place. Now these ones are new ones, they're a bit enameled on the side, but we're getting some voltage through and a green LED is lighting. Let's swap things around. Let's see, we should get a red light here. I'm not sure if we'll see it very well. Trying to get a spot where these probes will jab in. These are new probes and they put a bit of enameling on the side. So this is going to make a fool out of me, but you'll tell here they don't always beep when you touch them. You've got to get it just in the right spot. So I need to get the tip right jabbed into the solder here for it to make contact. Now my probes are against me. There we go, we've got a red light. Okay, I'm going to go with that and say it works. I think we're good for a full current test now. Right, let's do full current test. We'll sit this over here where you can see it. Let's make the magic smoke come out. Okay, 12.4. Well, it should read about 12.6 or 12.7, or thereabouts. I'll calibrate that with a multimeter in a minute. Let's just briefly check our reverse polarity. Checking. Right, red for wrong. Or W for wrong. Now I'm confused. I am tired. Very, very tired. Right, now that we know it works, let's just stick this damn thing on and hope we don't get it upside down. Okay, to the hot glue, and hopefully not losing my fingers. Ooh. And I'm going to learn from my lesson and remove them out of the way while they're not plugged in, and get rid of these horribly sharp hypodermic needle probes. They're not actually hypodermic, there's no hollow tube in them, but geez, they're sharp like one. Alright, 3-component project. And I don't know how long this video is going to be, somewhere near half an hour I guess. Thing I am going to do quickly, and this could destroy stuff, is I'm going to just briefly, let's adjust our camera so you guys can look at the center screen. I'm going to briefly trim these things off just with some flush cutters, and that will give us a nice profile to match the board. Alright, now we need some hot glue, so we need Mr. Stoner torch. I hope I'm not offending stoners. Oh, calibration. Wow, wait. Before we fill that thing up full of hot glue, we need to calibrate. So, how are we going to do that? Get out of the way, Mr. Stoner torch. We're going to go on, not data hold, we want backlight. We are in the 20 volt range, which now means we need to plug in our short circuit leads again. Up the top here. I know I've said it earlier in this video, but really guys, don't work tired, not if it's anything critical or dangerous. Alright, let's connect up our probes here. So that will give us power and volts up here. Let's get our multimeter probe into this mix as well. This is probe for that. This is our supply in, and this one is for multimeter, which is not going to squeeze in that hole. So let's plug it in a different way. Okay, so this is how we're terminating stuff. They are designed to do that. Now let's make sure, okay Mr. Stoner Torch, you can be in between those two leads so they don't have a short out again. Right, let's plug everything in. Okay, so our reasonably well calibrated meter here, let's move up to have a look at what it's saying. It says 12.44. And I think my next video is going to be camera tripod. this one doesn't sit still. So we have 12.2, so we're a little bit off. So let's twiddle the knob on the back. I like twiddling knobs. Well, that is not turning. Maybe I need a super oversized screwdriver. That is engaging better. So I'm sorry you can't see entirely what I'm doing here. But whoop, that's 12.5 now, which is actually pretty close. You're reading 12.50 occasionally, and this is reading 12.5. This will average a little bit. So I think, now one of the things that's happening too is that the sun's just come out, and this is feeding off the house battery, which is on solar power, so it's probably gaining in charge. So this could well be 12.51 or 52. We won't know until the voltage sort of climbs a little bit. But I think that's going to be close enough for the purposes we need. So now we can get some hot glue into it. So let's disconnect everything. Okay, let's dump some hot glue in here. So Mr. Stoner Torch can walk his way back here. And let's get some hot glue here. And yes, I do get a bit stupid when I'm tired. Alright. That's what I'm doing here, is using a non-recommended method for applying hot glue. It's a great way to melt skin off your fingers, among other things. You know what, this is going to have to go on upside down. Upside down, Miss Jane. Because I cut the lead a couple of millimeters too short. But luckily this unit does display dots, so it shouldn't read anything too terribly crazy. Alright, let's hold this until it sets. Considering I used a torch on it, this could take a couple of minutes, so we'll be back at that moment. Well, I'm suddenly now left-handed. I took a brief break and had a watch of LGR celebrating his 10 years. Interesting milestone. Now, I've just got, I've put a couple of blobs here to hold the wire down, and I think we're going to do the nice little bit of peeling off the plastic. Alright, so I think we have a product that might be useful. And probably once I test that this works and I pick off all the bits of hot glue, let's just melt a bit of that down there. Once I do that, I think I'm going to put some nail polish on the back so that it doesn't accidentally short circuit on things again. Alright, and nothing like doing nail polish when you're fatigued. I don't predict that will go all that well. So let's test this out one more time. Okay, we'll disconnect our multimeter over the back here. We'll put our ventilation away, and we will turn off the soldering iron, because, you know, that's not jinxing myself, not half. Okay, and let's connect some power. Wait, after we... Okay. Normally I use blue tack to hold these together so that this scenario doesn't happen. That's how you have short circuits, even though this is silicon cable. However, I'm using all my blue tack as a camera tripod right now, because my camera tripod broke the other day and is now tangled in clip leads. You know what? Maybe let's use the camera tripod as an insulator. Right. It will work for now, I guess. Alright. Now, I'm going to take my little two-prong connector here, and we're going to connect it up the right way. Let's just think about this. Yes, red for right. Okay, good. Did I say red for right? No, red for wrong. Anyway, we have 12.6 and the polarity is correct. If we then invert that, we go, oh no, it's wrong, unplug it. So that is right, and that's 12.6. Okay, hopefully that will make a handy little diagnostic tool. Let's find some sexy colors of nail polish and probably tag this wire down just a little bit better, and hopefully it'll be finished. This was supposed to be a really quick, like a 2-minute video, but you know, when you're trying to rush things and you're trying to do things tired, you make mistakes. And just as I was about to finish this wire broke off. Yay. I'm super duper lucky here. I can probably sneak the soldering iron on there without having to dismantle everything. Now this is not really the best promo for my work, I'll have to say that much. Now, I need tiny little pliers. I found these in the kit that I used to use for doing hearing aid repairs. So now I need to decide how I'm going to do this and which hand I'm going to use for what. This is why I sometimes need to do things solder with my left hand, because I like to film what I'm doing. Now this is going to be tricky around everything. Well, let's see if I can melt some wiring insulation. Alright, I think I've got it. Doesn't look nearly as good as it used to, but let's try. Alright, it works. Well, and let's see, we are... Yep, and that's pretty close to the voltage. The calibration's a tiny bit out. Alright, I think 0.1 volts is close enough. I think there's probably a bit of resistance happening through these connections. I think I'm just going to have to leave it as it is. If it's working, don't screw with it. Although, working would be a matter of perspective, I guess. Alright, let's get this nail polish out because I don't want to have to do this again. Okay, so I have been ratting around my collection of stuff. At one point, somebody was throwing out some nail polish, so I grabbed a handful. None of this looks really good for painting in nails, but I guess if we shake it up, it might help. So, darlings, what sexy nail polish colour shall we give to Mick? I'm a little worried about the metallic fleck in this one. I'm not sure if it's conductive, so let's just get that rid of it. Pink might suit him well, he might get picked on about that. These look a lot like you. Who would wear that for a nail polish? Like, that's just, yeah, alright, look, you know what, let's just skip all this. I'm going to go with the good old white. Because, like, you know, he's fixing lots of iPhones, I think that'll be right. Somewhere in here, there's a ball bearing floating around in there. I might have to add a touch of acetone in here to thin it out, but alright, let's give this a good shake up behind the camera here, because you don't need to see my shaking action. It's a little, yeah, embarrassing. So let's just coat everything here with nail polish, just as an insulation, and so I can see if he's tried to mess with anything. Not that I really care, to be honest, but this is more so he doesn't repeat my silly mistake and drag it across the desk and short everything out, because it might not be this that blows up, it might be something much more valuable. So, and this is, after all, prototype board. So let's watch me put nail polish on things. I guess I can probably speed this video up, so here we go. I've pretty well done as much as I'm going to do with this. I did add one extra feature. I added my signature fingerprint into the nail polish while I was testing if it was set or not, and I added a magnet which will allow you to stick it to things. Usually more substantial than a tin of mints, but that does mean you can stick it down whilst you're working with it and it won't get away so much if we can drag it off the tin there. So it will stick quite nicely. Hopefully that's handy. If not, I'm keeping it for myself because it will be handy, and it's been such a frustratingly simple project that everything humanly possible could have gone wrong. I'm convinced there's Murphy's in the family because Murphy's Law has prevailed. Wait, there are actually Murphy's in the family somewhere. Anyway, that's the end of this one this time. There's no extra anything about this. I am done. My extra idea of a voltmeter was a bad idea, but it's there. It's done. I'm over it. See you later.